Zach Dibmars for Fish Talk Magazine. I'd like to thank you for tuning in for another edition of Live with Lenny. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Before we dive into things, I'd just like to thank Yamaha for sponsoring tonight's episode. If you visit fishtalkbag.com, Yamaha offers a series of Chesapeake and Mid-Atlantic dealers for repower, service, anything you might need for your outboard motor. So head on over to our website and check that out. I'd like to bring on our angler-in-chief. We're going to go through some current events. How you doing, Lenny? What's happening?
What's happening, man?
Not much. You been fishing?
Ooh, I got a long story about that, but I'm going to tell you after the current events, okay?
Cool.
I'm going to tell you afterwards because it segues nicely into our next section.
All right. Well,
so what do we got going on?
A lot. It's June. Anyway, anyone interested in what's going on, just hop on over to fishtalkbag.com/calendar. Over there, we got a ton of events coming up. We got the Guardian of Pearl Rockfish tournament coming up over in Rock Hall. We're a sponsor of that. Bands in the Sands coming up. I'm probably sold out, but you might be lucky enough to grab some tickets. So anyway, head on over to this. We got tons of things going on, including CCA Anglers Nights coming up. Brand new one coming up in Annapolis on the 13th, and that's at West End Grill. We're going to have Captain Steve Griffin, who is, one of the hottest captains on the bay. So he's going to be talking about side scan. So I'm going to be all ears to figure out how to use my new side scan electronics. So anyway.
I'm going to try and get over for that one too.
But Lenny, you brought a special guest on for us tonight, didn't you?
I do, and this, let me tell you about why I'm frustrated recently fishing. I mean, first off, the bite's been hot and cold, right? In the middle bay zone, it's really been kind of like one day's great and then the next day's not. But this morning, I had a trip scheduled with a group of folks that donated to our Fish for a Cure team, and they basically bought the trip during our fundraiser, which we do every year. So if anybody wants to go fishing, please, when Fish for a Cure time comes along, we'll do another fundraiser come October. But these guys bought it last year, and we were all excited to go tomorrow morning. And last night, I looked at the weather. Did you look at the weather last night, Zach?
I knew there was tornado warnings.
Yes, they had small craft warnings up on the bay, and like a 70% chance of thunderstorms. And I shot the guy an email at 5:00 last night, and I said, "Man, I'm really sorry, but we got to cancel. We got to postpone this because the weather's going to be horrible." And then I got up this morning and looked out the window and went, "Oh my God." It was great, right? The wind wasn't blowing. It was nice. It was beautiful. And so it was a real bummer. But it does give us a nice segue into our guest for tonight. We are going to bring on Kelly from Fish for a Cure. Hey, Kelly, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good.
Look, I put on my Fish for a Cure shirt for you.
I love it.
Because, folks, we try really, we sink a lot of effort into helping out Fish for a Cure and participating in it, because there is just really no fishing tournament that benefits a better cause. There just isn't. So, Kelly, why don't you give us like your 1-minute elevator pitch as to why people should participate in Fish for a Cure?
Why they should participate in Fish for a Cure? Oh, I thought you were.
What's it all about?
What'd you say? Well, I thought you were going to ask me about what the tournament is. Should we go over what it is?
Tell me what it's all about.
It's a fishing tournament and a fundraising challenge that benefits the Gaetan and Joanne D. Caceres Cancer Institute at Luminous Health Anne Arundel Medical Center. But it doesn't benefit the institute itself. It benefits the cancer survivorship program, which makes cancer patients' lives easier when they get their diagnosis. So it's an all-day fishing tournament followed by a great shore party. This year it's at Safe Harbor Marina, November 9th. The fundraising challenge is called the Paul C. Detter Captain's Challenge. And that is for boats that want to do more than just fish for the cause. It is all of these boats get together, they compete with each other on how much money they raise. And it's super exciting. The winning boat last year raised $168,000. And yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money.
That really is. And I got to tell you, since Fish Talk has become involved with Fish for a Cure and become, a sponsor and part of the team, I've gotten to sit in on some of the events you all have invited me to where we got to meet some of the actual beneficiaries, some of the patients.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, people, that these are folks. Look, cancer's hit all of us, right? We all know someone who's been affected by it. And these are people who are really in the battle for their life. They really are. It is the, biggest challenge they probably ever will or ever have faced. And they'll tell you that participating in this tournament, participating in the fundraising challenge in particular, and helping to bring these nurse navigators into the picture is just, it has a tremendously beneficial impact on these folks. It's the real deal.
It is the real deal. So the Cancer Survivorship Fund at the hospital is the program that provides psychosocial services to the cancer patients, which includes nurse navigators, financial assistance, nutrition counseling, social and mental health services, spiritual services. So it takes the patient from diagnosis even past, hopefully, recovery, right? The nurse navigators are registered. When you're diagnosed, you automatically are assigned a nurse navigator. And that nurse navigator is a registered nurse that specializes in cancer. And unfortunately, some of my friends have used it. And so I was talking to them the other day. We were on a bike ride and I was telling them that I was going to be on Live with Lenny. And I was like, describe for me how the nurse navigator helped you. Like, how would you put it in a sentence? And one of my friends said, it is the roadmap to dealing with cancer and getting you to that recovery point. So when you're assigned a nurse navigator, you don't have to think, your head's spinning when someone tells you you have cancer. You don't have to think, where do I find a surgeon? What do I do next? What tests do I need? Where do I go for these tests? They set up everything for you. They will help you interpret some tests. They will make all of your appointments. Sometimes they'll, I had one friend who's a nurse navigator. She picked up a test result for her because she couldn't get there because she was one day. I mean, they're just the most amazing. It's the most amazing team. And
meeting the folks who have been the beneficiaries of all this, they certainly, to say that they appreciate it is the understatement of the century. But, the fishing tournament, it's great fun, right? Yeah. And I love the fishing part. The fishing part's fun. And I'm just going to point out, just for the record, I want everyone to know, the largest fish caught in last year's tournament was caught by, wait a minute, I always point wrong on the video. That guy. Woo! How big was that fish, Zach?
I don't know, 34-inch catfish, I think.
It was a big fish. It was bigger than any of the rockfish caught. Pretty cool. And we all had a great time. And the beauty of this is, if you're going to go fishing for Fish for a Cure and participate in this tournament, you get a free pass. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you have to ask. No one can possibly knock on you for going fishing on that day because it's Fish for a Cure. But more importantly, of course, is the fundraising aspect. And that's where you have a specialty. And we wanted to bring you in today because we found with Team Fish Talk that one of our challenges is one day we turn around and go, oh my God, the tournament's in 3 weeks. We better get on the stick. We got to fundraise fast. But you all are now putting forth a real effort to get people involved earlier, right? You want to get folks thinking about this now.
Yes, the website's live. You can register your boat. You can start fundraising. There's the earlier you start, the better it is for you and your team, because you can take advantage of, if you have sponsors sponsoring you, you take advantage of all the marketing benefits. The marketing benefits are great with this tournament, and the sponsorship package is online. Everyone can always call me. There's lots of ways to raise money for this tournament. I would say the first thing to do is to come up with your why, right? Why Fish for a Cure? Why do you want to raise money for the Cancer Survivorship Program? Everyone's got a story. Decide if you want to do a team or solo, and decide how you're going to do it. There's sponsorships. Sponsorships is by far the biggest bang for your buck, because a company can sponsor you. They also get a boat. they also get tickets to the shore party. They get all the same benefits you do. The money just goes on your boat. So if you think about your friends, if they own businesses, who you work for. I mean, I've had some people call me and say, hey, I'm driving down the street and I see this power washing company. Do you know them? And I said, no, but if you need help asking, let me know. They're like, no, I got it. I've gone to team meetings where we sit and we strategize about, okay, who do you know? How can I help you? Well, I don't really want to ask for money. Would you mind doing it? I know this person. I mean, I am available to do all of that stuff for you. I love this event.
I want to get you more on Team Fish Talk here because we're fighting every year to do the best we can, and we're trying really hard. But I want to do better.
Yeah,
I want to do better. Don't you think, Zach?
Meetings. I tell people all the time. I will come to one of your team meetings because sometimes people don't even. I do this all the time, so I can do it with my eyes closed. If you don't do it, you don't think, oh my gosh, yes, my cousin does this. I can ask them.
Yeah. And it takes a real effort, right? It really does. You got to really dig in and do it. So we need to get to we got to go to fishing here soon. I don't want to delay too much because there's a lot of cool stuff to cover, but I want to ask you one more question. Okay.
Sure.
I hear you talking. Fish for a Cure sounds cool. What do I do right now?
Start asking your friends and family. That's the easiest way to do it. There's a tackle box on the website. My information's also on the website. If you want me to help you draft an email, I mean, there's.
So step one is.
I'd be happy to.
Step one's go to the website, right? That's going to be.
Yep. Go to the website.
fishforacure.org. There it is.
Register your team. Start thinking about the ways you want to raise money, and the easiest way to do it is friends and family. Draft an email. Some teams say, I want to sell swag. We don't have a logo. ChatGPT, people. It does everything. I'm not kidding. I created a logo the other day on ChatGPT. I was like, let me see if I can create a fishing logo. So, but all of us in the foundation are here to help. And especially me for fundraising, for corporate fundraising, for any kind of fundraising, please reach out. My information's online. Use me. I'd be happy to help. It is a cause that's near and dear to my heart because I think it's so unique. You're taking the stress off of cancer patients so they can survive. It's not cancer research. It's not equipment. It is, improving the lives.
Fishing.
What do you say?
Fishing. And
you're going fishing. And the shore party is amazing. Good food, live music, great people, sells out every year. So that's one of my favorite parties too.
Yeah, shore party is a lot of fun. All right. So, Zach, anything you want to add on Fish for a Cure? Because you've been in on it every year since we all got involved. I think it's 7 years ago now.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's a lot of fun participating. It's a great cause. It's great friendly competition, and you just feel good about just being involved. More importantly, I don't think anyone mentioned, a lot of people, they book charter boats. So if you don't have a boat, you can. It's not a super competitive. It's friendly competition. You can do this tournament on a charter boat with your office, your family, your company, and you could get 12 people out there, and then you have a huge fundraising team to get out there.
I think there were like 4 or 5 charters involved last year, weren't there? At least.
Yep. And if you do a certain sponsorship, we give you a charter boat. It's the top sponsorship.
Wow.
But lots of companies use it to entertain their staff or clients. They go out for a day of fishing, and then they have this great shore party afterwards. So
nice.
Get there early for crab balls, though, because they go fast.
Yeah, they do. They do. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on, Kelly. We appreciate it. Let's all cross our fingers. It's another banner year for Fish for a Cure. I know we'll be doing our best. I know you'll be doing your best. So everybody, think about it. It's really a good thing to do. It's a great opportunity. And like I said, you get to go fishing. You get a free pass. No one can argue with you.
That's right. Kelly. And like I said, call me if you need me. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right, Zach, let us get to the fishing part of this program. What do we got? What do we got up first?
Well,
we're gonna go.
I'm actually throwing in a whole little. I'm gonna jump the gun on you here because we have so much other stuff to talk about. So before we get to the main presentation, I want to bring up the Great Chesapeake Invasive Count, because we are going to talk about this later. At the end of tonight's program, we'll be announcing the 5 winners for the May Great Chesapeake Invasive Count. This is free to participate in. All you got to do is catch a snakehead, blue cat, or flathead cat. You lay it on a ruler, upload it to iAngler, register for free here. But I'm bringing this up now because before we go into Lenny's top 3 angling adventures, I'd like to talk about what happened this week. What is that?
So that was the craziest snakehead catch I have ever made. I took out Katie, our Spin Sheets sales rep, and her dad, and we had a lovely morning of fishing, and we're standing there cleaning fish in the marina after the trip was over, and she goes, "What's that?" and points at the water, and there are these 2 big snakehead that were like rolling around on each other, doing the dance. And I literally took off like a shot. I don't think I've run that fast in like 20 years. And I ran back to the boat and I grabbed a rod and then I ran back to the fish cleaning station. And these fish had zero interest in eating anything. They were purely interested in mating. But they're snakeheads. They are invasive and they taste great. So I kind of cast it right at one and then gave it the little slam. And
This is only legal with invasive species.
It's an invasive species, yes.
You're not
I
doing
wouldn't do it to a rockfish. I wouldn't do it to a rockfish, but a snakehead's fair game. So I stuck him and pulled him up, and what I can tell you is he was delicious blackened.
Don't you mean Chesapeake Chana, Kevin said?
They did rename it Chesapeake Chana. I think snakehead is a fine name. I don't know why they did that. I like snakehead. What's wrong with snakehead? And other people, people say, ooh, they're icky. I think they're gorgeous fish myself.
A little slimy.
Yeah, they're slimy.
They got pretty scary teeth. I can understand, but I think blue cats are uglier. If you're having a beauty contest, I vote snakehead.
It's hard to argue that the blue cats are pretty fish. It is. But I like the snakes. But I'm glad you brought up the invasives count. And so we're going to wait to pick the winners till the end, right?
Yeah, we'll do that at the end of tonight.
And we're not picking, we're announcing. But there's some very cool prizes. So you folks who are in, stay tuned.
All right.
Excuse me. All right, let's get on to these hot fishing spots.
All right.
So the first couple slides really are more about the current bite because I did want to hit that real quick. Like I said earlier, it's been a hot and cold bite. This was the other day. We had Glenn out on our boat with us, and we had a tough bite that day, but we did catch some nice fish. He did somehow catch more than everybody else. So Glenn, here's to you, man. You really did it that day. He had the hot hands. But in the middle bay zone right now, well, let's start with the lower bay. Lower bay zone right now, we're seeing more specks and reds, but there are some rock around, plenty of slot rock, and undersized fish. And there's still a few oversized fish around. The other day we got one 35. That was up at Poplar. But the vast majority of the fish are up north. In the middle bay zone, it has gotten tough. It's hot, then cold, one day to the next. Rivers, in my recent experience, the rivers have actually been better than the open bay spots. You can see Sharp Sound Light in the background there. This was out in the open bay, but recently it's been kind of better in the rivers. Go ahead and slide us to the next one because in the Tangier and the shallows, there have been some very nice fish. This is Kaylee from editor of Prop Talk and part of Team Fish Talk. She's also on our Fish for a Cure team. And she can hold her own against anybody, as she shows holding up this fish on Zach's boat. And I have a sneaky suspicion, Zach, that she outfished you that day, didn't she?
She absolutely did.
Aha. I am not shocked.
And that fish was in about 3 feet of water.
Oh, my. Well, the shallows over there have been producing nice fish. And it's a mix, right? You guys got some specks that day too, right?
Yes.
Any reds?
No reds.
Okay, there are some around.
They were reported at Tangier, though, just a few miles south.
Okay, there are some around, but the shallows over there have been producing, really quite well. Why don't you go ahead and zap us over to the next slide? Look at that. I guess you did catch a few specks. That is one chunky looking speck right there. That...
Yes, it is. That is my personal best. That is a 26-incher.
Nice. That's a beautiful speckled sea trout.
It hit a white Z-Man paddle tail on a leadless ice strike right in the grass bed. I saw it hit. Again, 3 feet of water.
Oh,
Full of
yeah.
eggs. So we let all those pregnant fish go to make more of those beautiful fish.
Nice. And farther north, it's funny, people. Once again, Baltimore is the hot spot. Who knows why? They're all the fish are going up there. Last year it was true. This year it's true. Pretty crazy. It's like the only zone where there are really big schools of fish. And I think, Zach, you fished Baltimore the other day, right?
Yeah, we did. We came out of Marley Creek, actually looking for snakeheads upriver to see because I know they've been reported up there, and trying to do the invasive count, do my part. We ended up catching some perch and small rock in the river. Some of the rubble. There's tons of wrecks on Marley Curtis Creek, and then we decided to head out into the harbor, take a look at some of the current events, which was kind of surreal to see. And yeah, there was boats everywhere. So we just had some recent intel, found some schools on the side scan, and caught a few stripers. Nothing huge. I think I did lose one that was pull and drag on a 4,000. So I think there's definitely some decent fish in there, but I think they're schooling up again like they have in the past few years.
So the reports we're getting indicate that there are lots of dinks, plenty of slot fish, and a few bigger fish. So that kind of jives right with what you're saying.
Yep.
So, but like you mentioned, if you go up to Baltimore to catch these fish, you're going to be in a crowd, right? There's going to be a lot of boats up there. But we got 3 really cool hot spots to talk about tonight where you're not likely to find a crowd. Zach, why don't you go ahead to the first? We're going to do one way up north. We're going to do one in the middle. Then we're going to do one south. So this here is at the headwaters of the bay, where the arrow is pointing at Turkey Point. What you see to the left there is getting into the Susquehanna Flats. And go ahead to the next slide. I just wanted to show this one so people can get an idea of where we were. This is a close-up of Turkey Point. And the cool thing here is you've got deep water, with really abrupt drop-offs on both sides of the point. And this is way up the bay, right? You're not likely to find Spanish mackerel here. It's probably not going to happen. But you can get rockfish here. You can get hordes of white perch here. And you can get hordes of catfish here. And this is a really cool zone. It's terrifically interesting, particularly on that east side. The current can really blow through there. And it can be tough to fish, but it can be extraordinarily productive. Go ahead and show us the next slide. Sometimes the perch you find up there are really whoppers. You'll get big white perch up there. And it's really interesting territory. At times it gets pressure. It's not like you're going to be alone. But, the truth of the matter is when you're up in that zone, you see more boat traffic that just seems to be passing through than actual anglers right at Turkey Point there. You get a lot of boats going up the C&D Canal and I guess coming down the C&D Canal, going both ways. And you will get shipping traffic up there too, quite a bit of shipping traffic. But, it's just a really interesting zone of the bay. And the way north zone, because it doesn't have those exotic saltwater species, the redfish, the speckled trout, the Spanish mackerel, a lot of people kind of sell it short. But the neat thing is when you're up there, you get the rockfish, you get the perch, you get the blue cats. You know what? You can get snakeheads up there. You can get bass, crappie, yellow perch, all the freshwater species that you might go to a lake near the Chesapeake and catch. You can actually catch right there if you go up the Northeast River, the Elk River. These areas are just really terrifically interesting, and you get this awesome mix of like freshwater and Chesapeake. So it's really a pretty cool zone. All right, let's go on to the next slide and take a look at the next zone. This one I love. I got to tell you, people, I absolutely love this one. So here we have the Little Choptank River. And the super cool thing about the Little Choptank is there's no big marinas on it. Very few people bother to make the long run to get there from the big marinas. and you can go up any one of these creeks or coves and just have it all to yourself. Now, I've hit it, I think, 3 times in the last month or so, and been tons of rockfish, nice rockfish. Zach, I think you were there for one of those trips, weren't you?
Not quite.
No, you weren't on one of those trips?
Yeah, we hit Poplar. I don't think we went farther than that.
We had one early this. Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of the trip with David. You're right. We had one earlier this year. It was early May, where we caught I don't know, half a dozen fish over 26 inches. Just really solid quality fish, and then lots of smaller ones. And you get a lot of specks up here. You always have the chance of encountering reds. There are nice grass beds up inside of this river. And you don't need to know like the hot spot in the little chop tank. You don't. Just go up any one of these creek arms and just start fishing points, start fishing riprap. Cooper's saying if you had to choose 2 color paddle tails to buy for the rivers of the Middle Bay, and what size jig head? So I'm saying white and chartreuse. And by white, I mean white, pearl, gray, all those kind of colors, Cooper, are going to be really good. And then chartreuse, of course, is a classic some days. If it ain't chartreuse, it ain't no use. Other days, white's going to be the ticket. Jig head size, it really depends on what you're doing. If you're up in the shallows, casting to piers, something like that, a half an ounce head is going to be about right, maybe a quarter ounce if you're casting real shallow. If you're fishing deeper water, you're going to want an ounce or more to get down. And I'm glad Cooper threw that question in, because people, I forgot to say at the beginning, please throw up your questions, put them in the comments. We want to know what you want to know. That's why we do this. I should have said that from the start. Anyway, little chop tank, very cool water. You will get lots of specks up in those grass beds too, but there's something special and unique about the little chop tank. I wish I could make this bigger on my screen so I could show you all, but you can see from the color difference in the chart here, you've got a channel that goes way up in there. That's really, really deep. In some areas, it's like 25 to 30 feet, a lot of areas. And it's very contained, okay? So what does that mean? Zach, go ahead and take us to the next slide, please. It means you get some really interesting fish up there. And this is a horse croaker. Now, we haven't had them in some years, but if they come back, this is a prime area for them. You get those deep channel edges. You go out there at night, you drop down some bait. Man, you used to be able to load up on croaker there. Now, these days, it's tougher finding the croaker, but if you want to try and find them, you can still find some. If weak fish ever come back, weak fish were big there. You'll get flounder on those edges. You'll get a lot of these species that can be difficult to find in the Middle Bay zone, but the little chop tank with that deep channel right down the middle and those sharp edges, it's just a phenomenal area to try them. And you'll find them. You'll find them there. And I want to stress again, this is a low traffic zone for the Middle Bay, okay? When you compare it to the chop tank or the Patuxent, much less the South or the Severn, traffic levels are way, way down. And you can pop up one of those creeks. You can have a whole creek arm all to yourself. It really, if you want to go get away from the crowd and catch some quality fish, it is worth traveling there. It really, look at that. I forgot to turn the volume off on my phone.
Shocker.
Sorry about that. The funny thing is, that was my daughter, who knows that I'm doing this tonight. So, yeah, honey. Anyway, little chop tank, very, very cool spot. All right, let's go to the next slide if you would, Zach.
I had a question a little off topic. Do you want to?
Yeah, go for it.
At it?
Go for it. We love questions.
I'm not entirely sure what he's talking about, but maybe you do. How will the stripers be affected with the proposed elimination of commercial common pool fishery in the bay?
I got to beg ignorance, Vincent. I do not know. I do not know the finer points of how they divvy up the commercial catch. That doesn't end commercial fishing. It just transfers it to the, I think they call it the IFQ, individual fishing quota, I think. Might be wrong about that, people. But it's just transferring it to a different version of how they set up the catches. So I'm really not sure, but I'm not sure it'll have any effect. I think it really is more about how they divvy up the catch than it is what the total catch is. Although, Zach, should we talk about this other event going on right now, since it kind of relates to what Vincent's talking about, instead of waiting for I was going to wait for the end. Maybe we should talk about it now.
Do it.
Okay, so people, the DNR has put up for comment a new set of rockfish regulations. Now, when they did away with the trophy season, that was done with they tried to do an emergency measure, and they shut down May. They also shut it off to catch and release fishing, as you know, through May 15th. Then, of course, the regular season opened up. So now they're going through the regular rules process. And just today, they opened up for comment the regulation. Now, there's some other stuff attached to it. There were a couple other items. There was one for the Susquehanna area. There was one for the number of fillets allowed to be on a charter boat. There are a couple different measures. But the bottom line is, DNR opened all this up for comment today. If you go to Fish Talk Mag, we have this Angler's Alert that just came out. I think I posted that about an hour and a half ago. It just went up. We've got links taking you directly to the comment page and also to the studies Maryland has done on catch and release and how it's affected by water temperature. Because catch and release fishing, a lot of people are trying to villainize lately. And catch and release fishing, the first half of May, is kind of when it's the best. You have very low release mortality rates. It's the least impact on the fishery. All the areas within 20 miles of the spawning grounds are closed completely. And so it's really not a harmful catch and release fishery, but it gives us something to do in early May. And it stimulates a lot of maritime industry, because I'll tell you what, marinas, fuel docks, tackle shops, they were all dead the first half of May this year. If we had catch and release fishing, they would at least have had some level of business. It could really help, and it really doesn't hurt the fish. Now, that's just my personal opinion. I encourage everybody to research it for themselves, to look at that study that Maryland did on the catch and release mortality and water temperature, and draw their own conclusions. But whatever you think, I really hope you'll follow the links in there and go make your comments to the DNR. Now, the state of Maryland does not have a fantastic history in paying attention to public comment. We saw this last go round that the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission did. They paid a lot of attention to public comment. But, if we don't voice our own concerns, then we certainly can't blame anybody for not listening to us, right? It's one thing to just sit there and cry and moan. It's another thing to actually make it official and put your comments in. And then at the very least, you can say, well, public comment was X and you did Y, right? So we should all be going in there and doing our comments. And I got to tell you, I did it myself. To put in your comments was totally painless. Whoever designed the DNR survey did a really good job. It was just a few questions. It was click a button. It was, do you want to put in extra comments here? Very simple. It took me 5 minutes. So it's not a hassle. So again, it's on fishtalkmag.com right now. I'm sure it's on the Maryland DNR website somewhere. But please, people, do a little bit of self-educating on this and then go and make your comments. All right. Enough bloviating. I apologize. Zach, let's go on to the next slide. Let's go to hotspot number 3. Here we have, make that bigger. Come on, make me little. Thank you. Here we have, you can see Gwin Island right there. The Piankatank is to the north, to the south. Oh, God, I'm blanking on the name of the bay. And it's not on there. Shucks. It is Milford Haven. I don't know how I blanked on that. I was just there last fall. So the Piankatank up to the north, we get pretty good intel on in the reports, honestly, because a lot of folks run down there. It's close enough. and our contributor Eric Packard goes there quite often. Our reports editor Dylan Wooders went down there just, I think, maybe 2 weeks ago. Absolutely fantastic river. Really a lot of fun to go to. And the cool thing here, go ahead and go to that next slide, Zach. The cool thing here is you get it all. We're talking specks, we're talking rock, we're talking redfish. Heck, you're going to catch flounder here. You're going to catch lizard fish. You're going to catch ribbon fish. The Pianka tank is located such that it's kind of like, it's probably a little more than halfway down the bay or a little less than halfway up the bay. And it just kind of gets it all. It is truly a magical place to fish. You got grass beds, you got shallows, you got great shorelines, you got docks. There's everything you can want. It is not incredibly heavily trafficked. It gets, I think, maybe a little more than a little chop tank, but not a lot more. Excuse me. And it's really a wonderful place to hit. Oh, what do we got here? Parks is asking for a little chop tank. Is there a particular time or tide one should target? So Parks, if you're going to fish up those creeks in the shallows, you want an incoming or a high tide, maybe the first of the outgoing. You don't want it to be real super duper low. If you're going to fish on a low tide, I would be looking for some of the deeper grass beds. Find some areas that have a little bit of depth, but still have some of that fish attracting goodness. The shorelines on a low tide are kind of, they're not going to be as awesome, but those weed beds off the shores are still going to hold fish. Now, if you want to get some of those deeper water fish, the croaker, the weakfish, the flounder, the ones that are more likely to be on the channel edges, then actually the low tide, or I should say the end of the outgoing or just the beginning of the incoming, that's going to be prime time, because that's when those deeper water areas really tend to light up, is when you're on a little bit of a lower tide. All right, go ahead and take us to the next slide if you would, Zach. And we're going to take a more close-up look at Milford. Oh, wait a minute. We got another question coming in. Zach Ditmars is my favorite fishing celebrity and pickerel tournament nemesis, Zach Packard.
Thank you for the harbor intel, Kevin. Kevin said he caught 30.
Wow. That's a nice day right there.
I've got a question from Will. What are the VA rockfish regs and dates? Now, we have a page for that, don't we, Lenny?
We do. It is on the website, but it's the same now for Maryland, the Potomac River Fisheries Commission, and Virginia. And that was a function of what the ASMFC did. Excuse me again. Woo, getting hit by the allergies. The ASMFC opted to make it across the board for the Chesapeake Bay this year. So they all these areas mirror each other on the size limit. Wouldn't you know? The size limit and the catch limit. Now, Virginia has a different seasonality. They have a shorter spring season and then a longer summer closure. Regs and dates. Zach, can we put up the website for VMRC? Because I don't know them offhand, and I don't want to say the wrong ones, but the VMRC is where you want to go to check these for the exact dates.
Well, you made a page that has all the links on it, right?
Can we? Yes, we have. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
And if you scroll down, all the links are right here for your various jurisdictions.
Right. And again, all the limits are the same, right? We've all got that 19 to 24 inch slot, one fish per person per day. It's just the timing that varies a little bit. And that page, scroll back up so we can, what's the top? Okay, straight bass season 2024. Man, I'm really getting socked. I'm sorry, people. I apologize. How do you like that? I guess it's a risk of doing stuff live. Man, it's crushing me. Just if you just go to the search box and type in straight bass season 2024, this article will pop right up. It'll be really easy to find, and that's got all the links to all the different ones. There we go.
We gotta spell it right to get it.
Woo, man.
Comes right up.
Something bloomed. It's killing me. Oh, sorry about that, folks.
I think you're allergic to not fishing and sitting at the computer.
Yeah, I'm allergic to cancellations based on the weather that turn out to be botched.
Mm,
I'm so upset about that, man. I feel so bad about that. But what are you going to do? You know, when the weatherman says there's a small craft warning and gusts to 20, you just. When I was younger, I might have still tried. These days, I just can't do it. All right, let's get to the next slide.
Actually, I'm going to reverse for a second.
Okay.
And we got a question for Vince. Where's the closest boat ramp to the last spot? So, Virginia. So I don't. Maryland has a guide, but I'm not sure if Virginia does. Do you?
Yeah, they do, and there's a public ramp right at the bridge that goes across to Gwen Island. Now that might not be the closest to you, Vincent. It's going to depend on where you are. But if you type in Virginia public boat ramps into Google, it'll pop right up. Like Zach said, Maryland has a map that shows them. Virginia doesn't have the same kind of map, but it's pretty darn easy to find this stuff. But right, like I wish I could point on the screen. Right at the base of Gwen Island where it says Hills Bay, and there's a 16 and a green right there. There is a very nice facility right there that works out very well.
Cool.
All right. Okay. Go ahead and zing us over the next one here.
I got another question real quick. You want to field that?
Sure, why not? If I can breathe.
Look at Exertech.
Oh, man, I'm getting blasted. So Ben is saying, when in the chop tank or similar areas, are we trying to be at the drop-off between shallow and deep? Are we trying to be near shallow water structure? How long do you stay in one spot? Thanks so much. Okay, Ben, that's a good series of questions. First off, are we trying to be the drop-off between shallow and deep? Yes. Are we trying to be near the shallow structure? Yes. So both at different times and different scenarios will be productive. Generally, the shallowest structure on the higher tides is going to be best, and the transitions between the shallow and deep are going to be good, on a falling tide, a low tide. When you can find structure that kind of crosses both, and a great example of this is a pier. That's a long pier that's attached to a shoreline that has like 8 feet at the end. That's like a thing of beauty because you've got both, right? You've got the shallow water up by the base of the pier. You've got the transition. You've got the deep water at the end of the pier. And I call 8 feet, kind of getting deep. Some people would call that shallow, but not in my book. In my book, you're fishing the shallows, up against the shoreline to 6 feet of water. So that's prime. Now, the how long do you stay in one spot question, I love. Excuse me. I love that because I was fishing the other day. I took out some folks who were good anglers, and we hit, 5 spots in an hour. I give them 3 casts, and I'm like, we're out of here. And after the third time, one of the guys looked at me, and he's like, dude, do you ever stay anywhere and fish, or do you just keep moving? And I was like, I don't stay anywhere. I'm not patient. I keep moving until I find some fish. If I take 3 shots at a piece of shallow water structure and I don't get a bite, out of there. And if I've got 3 guys on my boat and we all do that, 3 casts, that's 9 casts. Let's say I've got white, you've got chartreuse, he's got pink. We've now taken 9 passes at a piece of structure with multiple options. At that point, get out of there. If you haven't had a bite, just get out of there. Keep moving. And if you got to hit 5 different spots in a row before you start getting bites somewhere, fine. Just keep moving. I'm a big fan of staying in one spot for a very short period of time unless I get a bite. When I'm working a shoreline with piers, and I'm working piers, and it's an unfamiliar shoreline, or maybe I'm working a line of riprap, and I don't know already where the best spots are going to be, my trolling motor is usually on 6. It's going to be on like 6. So I'm moving at probably 2.5 miles an hour. And everybody's casting as we go. And I'm staying on the move until somebody gets a bite. Then I'm knocking off the power. We get another bite, I'm hitting spot lock. Now I'm casting hard. Because what you're going to find is all these shallow water spots, be they piers, be they riprap, I don't care what they are, you're going to find that along a mile of shoreline, there's going to be 1 to 3 of them that hold the bulk of the fish. You're not going to catch two fish here and a fish here and two fish here and a fish here and a fish here. I mean, you might, but that's generally not how it works. Generally, you're going to hit, one pier, two pier, three pier, no bites. And then get to pier number 4 and boom, there they are. Man, you're going to catch a half a dozen fish or more. And that's where you want to stay and focus your effort. And then when that bite drops off, get moving again. So I love that question. A lot of people, they get on my boat and they're like, do you ever stay still? And I'm like, no, not unless I'm catching fish. Zach, I have a saying that I always use when I'm not catching fish and I just keep moving. You know what I'm talking about? That?
Insufficient results.
Right.
When you get them up,
results.
pull them up.
Yes.
And then you just throttle down, and then people fall off your boat. That only happens.
Yeah. Yes. If you're experiencing insufficient results, keep moving. Ben, I'm glad you're enjoying the magazine. That's awesome. That's what keeps me going, man. That is what keeps me going. All right. Do we have any more questions, or should we jump on to our next slide here?
I think we're all caught up. Actually, Kevin did respond to that previous. He caught those 30 before all those boats showed up, before the catch and keep. So it was catch and releasing up there a few weeks ago.
And I haven't been up there myself, but what I've been hearing from everybody is that it is a total fleet situation. There's like a bajillion boats everywhere.
It wasn't great. I'd say about a dozen.
Oh, that's not bad.
Several were charter boats, so a lot of lines out.
It could be a lot worse. Last year was a lot worse.
Some trolling, some live lining, maybe some chunking. Multiple tactics.
Was that a weekend or a weekday and nice weather or crappy weather?
Beautiful weather on a Sunday.
Okay, so Sunday's usually a little less traffic than Saturday. But if you got nice weather, that you have the potential to run into 50 boats. So if you had a dozen there, I'm saying that's not so bad.
No, it's good. All right.
Next part. Bring it on. Oh, whoa. You have to have a lot of confidence in your lures to move around when you see fish but don't bite. Well, that's true, but man, I find most of the time if you give some kind of white, pearl, gray, whatever, some kind of white, some kind of chartreuse, and some kind of something else. Sometimes it's pink, sometimes it's purple. You never really know. You just keep moving it around. But if you give them all that and you don't even get a bite, it probably ain't going to happen. Probably just ain't going to happen. You could sit there all day and try everything in the tackle box, and you might eventually catch a fish. By then, I'll bet I buzzed off and hit 5 different spots and found some fish and burned a bunch of gas. That's part of the equation too. Let's not forget that. That tactic does lead to burning a lot of fuel. I've had a couple spectacular fuel bills lately, I gotta say. But that's part of the game, right? All part of the game. Bruce is saying, any suggestions for fishing the Bay Bridge? Bruno, it's interesting. We have not gotten a lot of reports on the bridge recently. I haven't been up there and tried it, so I'm not going to make any suggestions for the here and now. I will tell you that as a general rule of thumb, if you can get a 4-inch paddle tail on a 1-ounce head up close to those pilings and let it sink, if they're there, you'll catch them. So letting it sink is key. And also you got to cast far enough into the current that by the time that jig sinks down to 10, 12, 15, 18 feet, you're not, 20 yards past the piling. So you can attack that a couple ways. You can cast way up. You can position your boat up current of the structure and then cast across it. As a general rule of thumb, I love those spidery pilings that look like this that are on the east side, North Bridge, right where they start. Those first few are usually the best. And at other times, for whatever reason, who knows why, those quadruple pilings on the North Bridge, west side, they can be very good. I often find that a lot of the others in between don't hold a lot of fish. Every once in a blue moon, the big giant cement one on the North Bridge holds fish. And of course, the rock piles. Don't ignore those rock piles, particularly the east side rock pile on the channel side, the west side of the eastern rock pile, and sometimes right on the north side, can be magnificent. And that brings up something really interesting. I have no idea why, but I never do well on the south sides of either rock pile. I don't know why. Isn't that weird? Never catch fish on the south sides. Maybe once in a blue moon. Really not much. It's always like the north side or the channel side. But don't ignore those rock piles. They can be really good. Hey, Chris, how you doing? What's Chris saying? Logging in this question in case we're out of time. Any supports of successful trolling areas in the Middle Bay? We have not been hearing a lot from trollers in the Middle Bay. I've heard some from the Upper Bay, from the Love Point area. I would say having mixed success. Some saying yes, some saying no. Middle Bay, I have not been. I can't. You know what, Chris? I can't tell you I've heard of anybody who's been trolling the Middle Bay zone. And I have been out a good amount in the last month, and I don't think I've seen anybody trying it. I've seen some live liners, seen plenty of jiggers, seen shallow water casters. I haven't seen the trollers. So
There was a bunch of guys trolling just north of the bridge, but that was like opening day-ish, so that was 2 weeks ago. I know Dale Dirks got, I think he nearly a limit, and then he went back out and then he caught catfish. So
that's right.
Kind of like they were there, and then 2 weeks later, kind of not.
Deal's a big troller, but that was north of the bridge, right? Wasn't he north?
Yep, I saw him. He was like mouth of Chester, kind of.
Okay.
There was lots of boats out, but I saw some of those same boats that were there that day in Baltimore Harbor 2 weeks later.
Well, that Love Point had a red hot instant start at the beginning of the season, and then quickly petered out. At least from all the reports. I didn't run up there, but that's what we heard was, oh my God, it's great. Oh my God, there's no fish. So, and which honestly was much, the way it's been around here. The opening day, I crushed fish at Thomas Point. I crushed fish at Poplar. A week later, it was impossible to find fish at either. Now they've come back a little at Thomas. Haven't seen them since at Poplar. Although, so Michael was talking about dolphins messing up the troll. So the dolphins are all around. We spotted a bunch of them off Calvert Cliffs the other day. They're all over the place, But oh shoot, what was I about to say? Oh, Dylan, our reports editor. He has been getting shallow water fish in the same areas I have not been getting shallow water fish by going at absolute dawn and fishing until 7:30. And he said that first hour 15 minutes of daylight, he's been catching fish on top water. You get it right up on the shoreline, right up on the rocks. You're getting blown up. And he said some really good mornings. I have not, because you know what? I don't normally focus on that early morning bite. I'm an afternoon bite guy. Dave is asking, are there any currently striper action at Rock Hall? Dave, it hasn't been in the reports. I don't want to say no, there hasn't been, because maybe there has been, but it hasn't been in the reports to date. Now, we'll get a new set of reports in tonight. They'll go up by noon tomorrow, and I would check them. Dylan does a really good job of digging for the info. But thus far, we really haven't heard a whole lot at Rock Hall. It's really been, it was Love, then Baltimore. That's kind of the hot zones. I knew there have also been some fish farther north. There have been some fish at pools. There have been some fish all the way up in, the elk zone. But I can't tell you that I've heard the Rock Hall name thus far in the reports. Doesn't mean they're not there, but we haven't been hearing it. Vince is asking, are blue cats spawning now, and will they move into the rivers when the water gets more salty? I don't know about the spawning thing, Vince. I'm not the biologist. I'm not sure when exactly they spawn. Now, they are in the rivers. I know guys who've been catching them. They were at the river mouths. As summer progresses and salinity increases, I fully expect that bite will shift more up the rivers, into the rivers. the mouths, the action there will start to drop off. We did get a mention the other day of action in the mouth of the Magathy. That's pretty far up, not tremendously high salinity, but even there, when, normally as the summer progresses, salinity climbs. As that occurs, we should fully expect those fish to push up into those rivers and go into the fresher areas for sure. And Mike's asking, we were just talking about Thomas Point. You were hearing people getting blowups on topwater. No, that's not, Mike, specific to Thomas Point. He was not fishing there. Dylan is a little farther south. So that's that. I didn't mean to infer. I hope I didn't leave you with the impression that's exactly what I was talking about. What I've been doing at Thomas Point is the lighthouse ounce jig heads, letting it sink. We had a good bite for a while there. That crapped out. At the shoal, I've been getting them on 1/2 ounce jigs, 4 ounce pearl paddle tails on the shoal where the rip forms, but it's been very sporadic. I've been there, I don't know, 5 times in the last few weeks, and I've had 2 trips where nothing happened and I left. I had a trip where I caught a fish, but really nothing was happening. It was pretty darn slow. And then I had a couple of trips where we caught some fish, including slotfish. But that was all on jig. That was not on topwater. I would call it a good bet to go to the shoal and throw topwater, early in the day, late in the day. And opening day, I was at Thomas Point Light, like right towards dusk. And we were throwing topwater that day. That particular time, we were throwing jigs. We were catching fish. We saw bunker jumping out of the water. We saw rockfish scaring them up. And I threw on a Neil Cohen, which is a plug that I love. And I think Neil retired. So if you've got one, man, treasure that thing. But it was a chartreuse and red Neil Cohen. And I threw it right up to the pier, jigged it twice, gave it 2 walks, and it was like boom, boom. And then, man, they kept hitting it. So that was great. But I call that an anomaly. That's normally, not what happens at Thomas Point. Walter's saying he went out with Pete on Saturday and had the boat limit by 6:30 a.m. on topwater. Nice. Well, Walter, I'm just going to say, if you were with Pete, you had an edge. Because he fishes like every day. He knows where those fish are, and he's very good. But that's awesome. Topwater, that's beautiful. I don't like to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't do that so much anymore. My trip today was supposed to be at 6:30, and I was psyched for it. What are you going to do? Kevin saying he's too old to wake up. Right. See, Kevin, we're on the same wavelength on this one. I do it sometimes when the tide's right, when the bite's right, but I'm not thrilled about it. But I was psyched this morning. I could wring the weatherman's neck.
You made me wake up at 1:30 one time to go fishing. Just
Will we go to the ocean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen. All right, so look, it's 5. Oh, holy cow. We're almost out of time. Walt, no, you do not.
I want to see Walt with a mustache and a beard, though.
We're totally running out of time.
All right, you got 2 slides. 2 slides.
Yeah, we got to do the winners. We got to do the winners. So blast me through those slides real quick.
There's more people tuning in. We're peeking out. We're fine.
All right, well, throw the next slide up. Let's get to the next hotspot, and then we'll do the winners. Okay, so this is the blow up of Winter Haven, that area on the south side of Gwin Island, and this is just gorgeous territory. Upper left, green arrow, you've got oyster cages. There are big oyster farms in there. That's structure, right? You don't want to touch those things. You don't want to get your jig near them because obviously you'll get snagged, you'll lose it. But there are fish all around those cages, so just cast to the outside of them. Cool stuff. Blue arrows going up. It's not quite as shallow as those depths indicate, but those edges are really nice. You got some piers up on shore that are nice. Red arrow down at the bottom. You got some piers hitting decent water. Very cool area. That little creek that goes up inside there has deep water just inside of it. Very cool area. I would like so, and you'll go and fish here all day long and like hardly see anybody. It's just one of those secluded spots that is lovely and wonderful. Most people go into the Pianca tank and they never hit this. So it's gorgeous. I highly encourage trying it. All right, next slide. Go ahead, Zach. This was our surprise bonus spot. Smith Island. Gotta love it. Zach, you were there just, was it last weekend or the weekend before?
Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day weekend. So we've had, like, this is like, I mean, people, it's fishing, right? Nowhere's great all the time. But we've had both spectacular days here and not spectacular days here. And I think when you guys were there, it was slow, right?
It was a little slow. We got there in the afternoon because we trailered down. So that's when we caught a few fish later in the evening. Heard the morning bite was really good. The western side of the island jetties kind of produced pretty well. The ones right out of the channel by Yule and the ones down by Rhodes Point. But it was a tournament weekend. A lot of boats. Those jetties were getting pounded. You know.
Oh, that's interesting. Normally there's like nobody fishing here,
but it was rays galore. I got to tell you. And my side scan was revealing them as these little diamonds. You could see them. I mean,
nice.
My first 2 casts were rays. So
well, it's super cool water any way you cut it. And people, I highly encourage going there. You can swing into town. Oh, there's Chrissy saying the early morning, way out fish the afternoon. You can swing into town. You can get an Airbnb and tie your boat up. In fact, Chris is the host of the Pearl, which has its own dock. You can get the Pearl, tie up at the dock, walk to the house, stay there overnight. It's just a really cool scene. And the whole Smith Island atmosphere is super duper cool. And people, try the cake. Okay? You hear all this about Smith Island cake? It's true. And if you've ever had Smith Island cake in a restaurant on the Western Shore, don't trust the experience because that's old sometimes. When you get there, Smith Island cake on Smith Island, and take a bite of it, you're going to be like, oh my God, it's the best cake ever.
not only that, the Harborside crab cake might be one of the best crab cakes you've ever had.
Ooh, really?
We had those a couple years ago, but we've gone there every trip. We go to the Harborside and get a crab cake.
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about now. Yes, I remember that. Yes.
I had an idea, and maybe we could make this. This could be like a project. Maybe I shouldn't even say this, but what if it was a Smith Island crab cake? So like a giant crab cake with layers of crab dip in between.
Wait.
Or
Could
fish
you have-
dip even.
Could you have a layer of cake and then a layer of crab cake and then a layer of cake?
And then like 12 times. No. It would be crab cake, crab dip, crab cake, crab dip. So the icing would be the crab dip.
Well, we better watch out because we know Chris is on here. He might. Next thing you know, there's going to be the Smith Island crab cake crab company.
It'd be like a $500 cake. Crab cake. Maybe it could be fish dip in between the crab cake.
Nice. All right, well, we got through the slides. Let's get to those winners. Who are the lucky winners?
Challenge accepted.
Nice.
And Chris is also the founder of the Smith Island Fishing Tournament, which has been growing year after year. They did an excellent job this year. The party was amazing. So it's a super fun, friendly competition. Decent prizes as well. So, you can fish right out from the island. You can fish anywhere in the Chesapeake Bay. But, the spirit of the tournament is around Smith Island. So you're encouraged to go there and experience all it has to offer. And we've been twice, and it's a blast. So
It is super cool.
it's a great community, great people, and they have a brand new marina as well. So you can go and you can just transient dock if you don't want to stay there and just check out some of the festivities.
Okay, so hold on a sec now. So when I was there last, the marina was still under construction. So that's finished now.
Oh, it's beautiful. We did a fantastic job.
So there were transient slips, so you could get like any of the places on shore you could stay at, and you can dock there.
Correct.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And he can hold, depending on volume of slip holders, he can hold pretty large vessels.
Excellent.
I mean, he's got a big 26-foot Maycraft or Parker or something. So I mean, he's got a big. His boat is pretty large.
Okay.
Yep.
All
So
right.
yes. So
Let's get the winners, Zach. Come on.
yeah, right.
Cool goodies.
So if you weren't on Live with Larry last month, you missed the announcement that every month for the rest of the year, we'll be announcing the winners of the Great Chesapeake Invasive Count. And if you're just tuning in now, this is a free program, free to participate. You register for free at ccamd.org/count. You download the iAngler app, and then you can use any kind of official ruler that's, to measure your snakeheads, your flatheads, and your blue cats. You can check stomach contents if you choose to do so. And what you're doing is you're providing citizen science. You're providing all this data is going to the DNR and BMRC fishery managers so they can evaluate, the populations better throughout the bay. So you can help out, have fun, fish, and win really cool prizes. So we're going to announce the 5 winners for the month of May. So Lenny?
Ooh, Brad Stover, you got the cool bait cooler. Nice. Congrats, Brad.
I apologize. I didn't update the month. These are the May winners, not the April winners. I seem to overlook that small detail.
Everybody ignore that April thing. Ignore that. That April says May.
It does.
So those live bait coolers are pretty darn awesome, and they are not cheap. Brad, you are a big winner. Congratulations. Zach, how does Brad collect?
You simply pop on over to ccamd.org/invasive-count winners. It's going to have an option there for you to ship or pick it up at All Tackle in Annapolis.
Very cool.
All right.
All right, what do we got next? Glenn has won the Marucci sunglasses. All right. Now, I've worn these sunglasses. These are like real deal sunglasses. Glenn, you're going to be psyched. And with the gift card, correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, but I think he can pick out whichever style he likes, right?
That's just an example of a fashionable fishing style that I thought was cool that I might if I were to win. I haven't caught an invasive yet, sadly. So anyway.
Wow. Right, but Glenn, you can choose whichever style you like most. That's what the gift card's all about. And congratulations, Glenn. Maria, another Marucci pair. There we go. Congratulations, Maria. And Carter got the tool set. I like that tool set. You got the pliers, you got the knife. Very nice. Congratulations, Carter. Lillian, you got the second tool set with the fish grips. So, I got to throw in here, the fish grips are great for the invasives anglers because A, the snakeheads are impossible to control, and B, who wants to try and hold a blue catfish, right, with a spine sticking out or a flathead? So you got the grips. Very nice. Congrats, Lillian.
Those are some solid grips too.
And it's all CCA stuff, which you got.
So if it's likely these participants aren't tuned in, if you're friends with any of those 5 people, let them know they won and let them know how they can redeem their prize. Again, just go to this website. You'll have a form to fill out whether you like it mailed or picked up. And obviously, if you could pick it up at All Tackle, that's convenient and it's a cool shop if you've never been there. So go check it out on Somerville Road in Annapolis. And if you're just tuning in to participate, you sign up at this website, ccmd.org.
There we go. Very nice. Thank you, Zach.
While we're on the CCA topic, I just want to say the CCA has a great calendar of events coming up as well. ccamd.org. If you're on that same website, go to calendar. Here's the invasive count, more information there. They got a youth fishing derby, a couple anglers nights coming up down in Lusby, one right here in Annapolis with Captain Steve Griffin we mentioned earlier. Also a cool reef building event that's great for the kids to learn about how to build Chesapeake Bay habitat. And there's several of those throughout the bay as well if you scroll down. And also you can participate in other tournaments like Pounding on the Pocomoke, and you can coincide a league. That's not the right word.
Oh, and what? Are you making up words, Zach?
And I am trying to make a word. Hey,
you're making words up.
All words are made up. You can participate concurrently, is what I was trying to say, in the Pounding on the Pocomoke while doing the Great Chesapeake Invasives Count. So you can just catch that fish and enter it twice. It's not a real deal tournament. So anyway, check that out. We have one final question, I think, that we could.
Okay. What do we got
here? And I'll let you go first.
Cooper, before you go, what are your top 2 paddle tail brands? Okay, Cooper. So I got an interesting proposition for you. Here's how I'm going to answer that. None and none are my top 2 favorites because honestly, it's not a brand thing. It's a size thing and it's a color thing. Once you get beyond that, brand is pretty irrelevant. A plastic is a plastic. A paddle tail paddles, a straight tail wiggles. They're really all very similar. Now, couple caveats to that, okay? Number one, if there are bluefish around, you don't want to be throwing a normal paddle tail because they'll bite the paddle tail off. You want to be throwing a bite proof. Z-Man is the one that everybody knows about. There are a few out there. If you want to fish, if you're trying to catch a fish that is very scent oriented, you want to use a scented one, right? You got your Fish Bites, has the Fight Clubs, and Berkeley has the Gulps. So like I like to throw one of those two, particularly when I'm fishing reds. I like them a lot for them. Although a lot of guys fish other stuff for them that's not scented, and they do fine. But it really isn't a brand thing. It really isn't. The vast majority of the tails out there, it's size and color that are really, really critical. And here's my example of how I like live by this. Zach has seen this. I buy these ridiculously cheap pearl paddle tails. How often have you seen me throw those, Zach?
9 out of 10 times.
You got to throw them all the time. They're stupid cheap. They're from like Kentucky or Tennessee, and they're made for bass fishing. I forget. Do you remember what the brand is?
I have it saved somewhere, but I don't know. I've never ordered them.
Killer jigs, killer tails,
I think killer
something
jigs.
like that.
Yeah, but
They're super cheap. The reason I throw them is because they're super cheap. And I really don't care about the brand. But they've got that pearl color, right? That I'm always saying, white, pearl, gray. And they've got a paddle tail, and they're 4 inches, which is kind of great for a zone. So I would worry less, Cooper, about brand and worry more about color and size.
I don't want to throw you under the bus or anything here, but I have a completely different take.
Oh, give it to me, Zach. Give it to me.
Go to your local tackle shop. They're carrying the best brands for your area. And what we have here in the Chesapeake Bay is numerous manufacturers of local tackle, from jig by GI Jigs to Coach Jigs to Hardhead Custom Baits. And you got all kinds of small soft plastics, you know. You got the ADs, you got your Bustum Baits, you got your old school makes a variety of different types of paddle tails. And his eel went crazy viral last year when everyone was catching big trophy stripers on those eels.
So that's actually a good point. You make a good point.
But my favorite is either the Z-Man or the Gamblers, which I get at Anglers. But Bloody Point Baits at All Tackle are also very, very popular, which is actually the Tom Weaver special, and I've seen those catch.
I got to tell you, there was one trip I had this year. Actually, it was a trip with Glenn. It was Glenn who was fishing the Bloody Point Baits 4-inch chartreuse shad, and he kicked everybody's ass. Now, was it Glenn or was it the shad? I don't know.
The Tom Weaver special is a BKD jig head with a Bloody Point shad.
It was kicking ass that day. Every day's different. Who the heck knows, you know? But yeah.
Patrick agrees, though. If you want bluefish, you got to do the Z-Man, and same for Spanish and other things like that too.
There are some others now. It's not just Z-Mans. Who are the other ones, Zach?
I don't know.
Bite proof.
I don't know.
Oh shoot! I came across them. I've come across them a couple times now. There are some other options, but it's got to be bite proof. You can tell. You just grab a tail.
All right. Well, Lenny, next month it's like July 4th, so I'm not sure what we're going to do by dates. So stay tuned. Follow us on social media. Check out our email list. Sign up for fishing reports, and we will let you know what the scheduling for that is, because
we'll jiggle that.
4th of July might not be the best for Live with Lenny.
We will jiggle that. Maybe we'll do the second Thursday of the month next month. We'll see. Stay tuned to Fish Talk, and you'll find out.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you very much, Zach. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. I know we went way over time. Woo! We went way over time. Thanks for hanging with us, people. Hey, it was a fun conversation.
It was great. Thanks, Lenny.
Have a good one.
Hey.